The Trump administration is preparing to conduct a major immigration enforcement operation, they say, in Chicago as soon as next week. That's according to sources who tell CNN the preparations including surging agents and armored vehicles to the city. Let's bring in CNN's Priscilla Alvarez. And Priscilla, this would be a major escalation and certainly would not go over well with the leaders of Chicago and Illinois.
Jake, a major escalation, but also the latest clash. Remember, Chicago was one of the first cities the Trump administration targeted when the president returned to office for its immigration enforcement operations. This is going to be much bigger in scope, of course, as they continue to escalate on this front. Now, the blueprint for this, according to sources I've spoken with, is Los Angeles. Los Angeles, of course, had U.S. Customs and Border Protection surge to the city, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, but they also had National Guard there at the time to quell protests. And in this case, National Guard is also being prepared in the event that they are needed for what officials say would be peacekeeping presence. Now, as part of the preparations, not only are they sending armored vehicles and mobilizing more personnel there, including CBP agents, they're also talking about using a naval base nearby as a hub for federal personnel. Now, White House officials have told our colleague Elena Treen that this is distinct from what the president has suggested as far as a crime crackdown in cities like has been happening here in Washington, D.C. This is very much more focused on immigration enforcement in a city that did contend with an influx of migrant arrivals during the Biden administration when the Texas governor was sending migrants there. But certainly this is going to be a big escalation, Jake, and one expected to kick off next Friday, though conversations are still ongoing.
And Priscilla, we're also learning that the Border Patrol arrested 2 firefighters in the midst of their fighting wildfires in the area of Seattle. Is that true? What happened?
Yeah, according to a Washington congresswoman who confirmed these arrests, essentially these 2 firefighters were arrested at the site where they were fighting this blaze in Washington. What is unclear, however, is the why. Why were they arrested, particularly at a moment where they, again, were at this site fighting this blaze? Now, Washington Senator Patty Murray says that she's demanding answers from the federal government about what exactly happened here, because that still isn't quite clear. But this is a wildfire that has torched thousands of acres, and it is indicative in many ways of how the broad immigration crackdown that is happening nationwide can go on to include individuals that perhaps you may not suspect, and at moments that are inconvenient, to say the least. So this is something that Washington lawmakers are trying to get more answers on. But the bottom line is that they have confirmed that these 2 firefighters were arrested as they were fighting this blaze.
All right, Priscilla Alvarez, thanks so much. Let's right to our panel. So we were told that they were going to focus, at least in the first year, on getting the dangerous criminals who are undocumented immigrants out of the country. And I think most people were like, great, get the dangerous criminals out. I don't know that I would consider people who are heroically, braving fires and trying to save American lives to be part of this crackdown that's needed right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of strange that President Trump says that he's looking at waiving people who work in the hotel or agricultural business, but going after firefighters, well, that's a different matter, right? I think though, that the real significance of this story isn't so much that they detained 2 firefighters. It's that they detained all of the firefighters for 3 hours while they were checking their IDs. And we saw a Washington Post story on Wednesday that all basically Salvation Army, all these NGOs that work for disaster relief in the United States, they're going to be required to basically do ID checks on American citizens to make sure they're not helping illegal immigrants. And so a lot of these strictures, it's not so much that they're detaining illegal immigrants, it's that they're gumming up the works for vast amounts of civil society and for first responder stuff to do this kind of thing. And I think it's going to eventually elicit a kind of blowback.
Mike, CNN has a new, did you want to weigh in on that?
Well, no, just that we'll see what that blowback is. Because
Sure.
I think you're absolutely right. These organizations are now going to have to add an extra step to all of this. But I'm not sure that we've seen the blowback yet. And with these 2 firefighters, one of them had an order of removal. So it's an open question, but at what point are the American people going to say it's too far, too much? I don't know that we're there yet.
Yeah,
well, that's my comment.
My point is, you can defend detaining and deporting these guys. Why wouldn't you do it after the long day of work fighting a forest fire rather than interrupting the process of fighting a forest fire. And it's like that at scale when you think about all these other institutions that they're going to ask people to basically be de facto proxy immigration enforcement agencies, that I think could actually just get to a management problem that the Trump administration is ill-equipped to deal with.
And you talked about how there isn't blowback, and I agree there hasn't been like any systemic change in Congress or anything like that. But the polling is going in favor of immigration. Like you see Republicans jump 20 points on immigration is good for America, and from where they were 6 months ago. Like there is a subtle change going on in people thinking that maybe immigration isn't as bad, even illegal immigration isn't as bad as it was depicted, because we're hearing stories about, oh, this waitress, and oh, this teacher, and oh, these firefighters.
Yeah, but then you have the Washington Post today, since I think we're going to keep quoting the Washington Post instead of...
It's a great paper.
Well, the CNN's reporting had that these firefighters, by the way, were not actively fighting, that they had pulled them, all of them back, and that's when they did the ID checks. But that's CNN reporting. But let's go to the Washington Post.
Yeah.
So they reported that Pew's got a survey out that amongst Republicans,
Yeah.
ICE is at 68% approval rating. So to your point, we can play with these figures, but Republicans now, according to Pew,
Yeah.
believe that a majority believe DOJ is a much better place, HHS, ICE, and one other, the FBI.
Okay.
And so I think when you talk about Donald Trump, is he playing to his base? Is he playing to the American people? They're in some instances they're both.
Yeah.
But we're seeing Republicans come around.